Start recording. Make sure that everything works well.
Good? Yep, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good.
All right, let's try it.
And now for something special. The unit is self-contained with its own saddler, farrier, wheelwright and so on. It's a rigorous training dished out who know all there is to know about horses, and it brings results.
We take you behind the scenes now to show just some of the interesting aspects of this training.
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stein, the #1 podcast to create sounder horses from the ground up. Mike Stein is a registered journeyman farrier with an APF1 accreditation. On this week's show, we're going to talk to Dave Farley, a farrier extraordinaire. And these topics we're going to talk with him is dedication to education, owners are the reason why farriers exist, and why it costs so much to hire a traveling farrier. All this and much more will be discussed here on Equine Dynamics with Mike Stein. And over to my far right side is Mike Stein. How are you?
I'm doing good, Travis. How are you doing?
Doing all right. How about that weather out there, huh, Mike?
It's beautiful, balmy spring weather. Going to work on my tan.
I think my wife was riding this morning, and as you know, she rides dressage, and she was out on the off the property there at training camp with Diego, and she was riding out in 27-degree weather this morning.
Nice.
Nothing. That's too cold. I'm still laying in bed. She gets up around 6:30 to be out there by 7:30 and tacked and everything by 7:30. So from 7:30 to I think 8:30, she does an hour-long lesson, and she's out there riding around. What happened to your nose, Mike? Who beat you up?
It was horse owners.
Really? Did you get kicked in the face by a horse?
No, I went to the skin doctor.
Oh, you okay? Everything checked?
I'm fine.
Okay.
I'm fine. You know how it is when you're fair skinned, you've been out in the sun your whole life.
Oh, yeah. My dad's, he's got zips and cuts and stuff all over his body because growing up with his dad, my grandfather, they fished all the time. You know, living in Orlando, Florida,
right.
It was nothing for us to travel over to the coast and go fishing on the beach all day long. And back then, there was no sunblock. My dad had no sunblock. And then, so his face is a result of that. He's got cuts and stuff to remove all those little melanomas or whatever he's got going on. Now, Mike, I have a question for you.
Okay.
I was talking to some horse people.
No, you weren't.
I was, believe it or not. I try to stay as far away from those people as I can. But I was talking to some horse people, and one of the people I was talking to were saying they were having issues with their horse. And I said, you know, I'm just kind of like half listening and stuff because I'm like, it's like paint dry to me, I guess. And they're telling me, or the conversation's going on, I'm just poking my ear in there, that because of the breeding of horses, now we touched on this probably in our second or third season.
Right.
With the breeding of horses, they have now eliminated a certain bone in the neck so that the horse, as it rides, it can have this long extended neck that stays, it can get down more. You know, does that make sense to you as far as like
bone, or was it like a tendon or ligament?
No, it's actual. Let's say there's 27 bones in the neck. Now horses are being bred and they're trying to figure out, and they're eliminating one of those bones. It's no different than like if you were to remove a rib, you could literally bend all the way over. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got you. You got me on that one. I don't know.
But the problem is in reality, you're handicapping the horse because the horse is not 100% built up to, you know, the ones that run free on the Outer Banks and all that stuff.
Right.
And it shortens, I say, wouldn't it shorten the lifespan of the horse or cause any kind of problems with the horse? I don't know. This is what
Time will tell.
This is what they were telling me, and they're saying that they were having problems with it. Granted, this horse that the current horse that they have is doing very well, like in shows and stuff. Unfortunately, because of that bone being missed, it sets off a chain reaction down the horse's structure all the way to the back.
Well, yeah, if you change the way the neck moves, everything else will adapt, and we'll see what the long-term effects are.
So it was just a weird conversation because I think about, you know, just dog breeding. I've had bulldogs my whole entire life, and bulldogs at one time didn't have that stubby snout.
Right.
And they pick out, you know, this dog and this dog, and they make those breed and this dog and this. And finally, they got to that patented bulldog face where they had this short snout. Unfortunately, being a bulldog, they have a lot of respiratory problems because of that short muzzle that they have. Because their legs are so short and their body's so fat, they have a lot of hip dysplasia and stuff like that. Even though they're really, really cute animals, believe me, I love my bulldog. She's almost 14 years old, Cookie Puss, but she has now getting to the point where that weight and her legs, she can't get up on them. She gets around. Once you get her up, you have to kind of help her up. She'll walk around all day long. But unfortunately, the breeding of horses, I guess, is leading or going down this path as well.
Well, it's been going down that path for a long time. And depending on the horse, the sport, the whatever, we have done stuff that's not exactly natural to the horse to get a certain effect. And sometimes there are some negative aspects of that.
Is there any like a group of people out there that actually say, we want our horses to be natural, nothing crossbred, nothing inbreded or spliced together, no crazy horses? Is there a group of people that just believe in like the protection of horses for that?
Oh yeah, I'm sure there are.
I know
there's plenty of groups that believe in stuff. I
didn't know if you came across any of these people in your stall work or barn work or anything like that.
I'm sure I have, and some of them kind of get over the edge in other directions at times, and it's like that. What's that deal about having an opinion? Or
yeah. I guess there's like extreme on both sides. I just thought it was an interesting conversation. I've never heard of breeding a horse to remove a bone that would help the horse have this more graceful arch of its neck as it's training and or in competition.
Yeah, I'll have to see what I hear on that one. I've not run across that yet.
All right, guys. Well, stick around. We got lots to get into and lots to talk about. We're going to bring up Dave Farley here, a farrier extraordinaire, and you should hear his stories that he has. So stick around for that. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stein. He'll be right back.
Yep.
Give me one sec, Dave. I'll bring you on. There he is. You there?
There we go.
There he is. He's not frozen now.
I noticed during your intro there, occasionally it locks up. Is that on my side or your side?
It's probably our side, just because of we're out in the country and you're in Florida, so you should have a good strong signal. I mean, your picture looks good, so just bear with us as we try to clear up on our end.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Mike, you ready?
Sure.
Whenever you are.
Okay. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stein. Make sure you follow him on YouTube. And don't forget, for every podcast we have a matching video as well. And you can see us here in the studio, me waving to Mike, Mike waving to me. And we have a special guest here in the studio. We have Dave Farley, a farrier extraordinaire. Dave, welcome to Equine Dynamics. How are you?
Oh, very well. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Now, I'm looking at your list of accolades that you have here, and if you're looking at it here on the camera, holy mackerel, you could write a whole book just on what you've got going on here.
Right.
So tell us a little bit how you got started. And I'm looking at your bio here. Before you turned into a teenager, you were messing around with horses. How'd you get into that?
So I immediately started to ride the pony around, and over the hill was, or somebody feels sorry for you. And I eventually got a job of sweeping for him.
I'm sorry, Dave. Half of that we did not catch just because of the internet connection. I know it was probably good to go. Do you want to do the phone?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can we call you on the phone, Dave? I'm sorry.
Would you like for me to try the?
Never too early for vodka.
That's right.
Actually, I think we're going to go to the phone lines. I don't want to stress Dave out over this. Dave, just give us a call here on the phone. Hold on, I got to switch phones here. Now we're going to talk to Dave Farley. Thanks for joining us here on the program, Dave. How are you?
I am very well. Thank you very much, and I really appreciate you having me on the podcast.
Well, we're excited to have you. Now, I'm so excited that I'm looking at your list of all the stuff that you've got going on here that you've done in the past year, and it says past resident farrier of the Ohio State University, past board member of the American Farriers Association, and this list goes on and on and on. First president of the International Associations of Professional Farriers, life member of several state associations in the United States, and you say you're just a basic farrier? I mean, if you're watching this on the YouTube channel, look at this list of everything that he's done just last week. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, that's how busy Dave is. So, Dave, tell us how you actually got started. And I'm reading your bio here, and it says you got started even before you were a teenager. I was out playing in the mud with, like, toy cars and stuff, and you're sitting underneath a horse?
Well, I was a child until I was 5. My parents bought me a pony, and my grandparents lived 7 miles away, and we lived in an area called the Buckeye Trail System in Ohio. So I would ride with my grandparents starting at 5, and I would have to ride past the coal mine where my grandfather worked. And there was a blacksmith there who also shod the mine ponies. So I was fortunate to hang around him enough that he felt sorry for me and actually gave me a responsibility of sweeping the floor for him. And it made me feel very important. And that led to him introducing me to his mentor. And that mentor was just a normal farrier like myself, and he took me under his wing. And so by the time that I was 9, I was able to do a little bit of work under the horse. And by the time I was 13, I was nailing on shoes. So that's how I got my start. I think it's probably similar to a lot of other people, maybe not that young, but it was a wonderful start. I wouldn't change anything about that.
So when you were nailing horses or shoes on horses, I'm assuming these aren't like eventing horses or race horses or anything like that. These are probably farm horses, or what I like to call pasture ponies.
Yeah, basically they were trail riding horses that came to the area to go trail riding, plus the locals, of course. And you're always, when you can shoe horses, you're a hit with the family. So anyone that has horses, they will absolutely abuse you and have you shoe their horse as much as possible.
That's right.
Now, one of the things that you stress about is the dedication for education. And explain your educational background, because I'm looking at Ohio State University you've been to, or you were part of the board members. You were one of the, speaker of a, you were honored something about, I'm trying to find it here on your bio here. You were the first non-professor, non-doctor to have an honorary recognition. Explain that for me.
Well, what that is there's a lot of equine specific universities that don't have a resident farrier. I was fortunate to be involved as a resident farrier at Ohio State, and that led to me actually working with some of the vet students that I met during that tenure, and it has made my business quite successful. And those veterinarians know the value of equine podiatry. So there was a very, very smart, bright young girl that went to school at Ohio State and seen the lack of that. And she did the legwork to get that started, to actually make it accessible and able for me to let those students that want to be equine podiatrists ride with me to learn some of the positive things about how to deal with lameness and shoeing the lame horse that they'll, of course, see in their practices later on in life. So it was just, my whole life has just been being at the right place at the right time and being very, very dedicated to education. And that has carried through not only in my daily business and success in the business, but also being involved with other associations and universities and horse owner groups that are interested in helping the horse.
Now, when you say furthering like your education, you're not just talking about any like just nailing the shoe on the horse. You're talking about the whole biomechanics of a horse. Am I correct by saying that?
Well, absolutely. But anytime you apply a proper trim and a proper shoe for that horse, you're really helping the whole horse. You're encouraging a more sound and more medically viable horse to be able to perform to its absolute maximum capacity. So, we talk a lot about lamenesses and certifications at certain levels and so on and so forth, but it all starts with the basic trim and the basic right choice of a shoe for that horse. And that's where a lot of people get lost. They want to go from A to Z too quick. And you really need to start with the ABCs to understand that trim and that basic shoe that horse needs is the fastest path to soundness.
With your whole entire background of education, what areas did you feel like that was I got the most information out of that certain area, whether it be the mechanics, not the mechanics, but the actual stuff, the tools that you use? Is it the shoes and the equipment that goes with it, or is it the actual the overall structure of the horse? Where did you find most beneficial to on a 3-point prong as far as being a farrier? Which is the top spear, and what are the 2 side prongs?
Well, the number one thing I believe that would help any of us is to surround ourselves with people that are smarter than us.
That always works.
Yeah, you kind of don't want to be the smartest one in the room.
That's right. So I surrounded myself with a lot of trainers and veterinarians. And then through my friendship with tool makers was probably the second thing, when you have the correct tools to complement a procedure. And then a friend who was involved in the rig building business, who was very open-minded and listened to a lot of people who gave him suggestions to improve the quality of their work through having the right rig to put the correct tools in. So you combine those 2 things with being around the right trainers and veterinarians, it's truly a shortcut to success.
Have you ever mentored anyone as far as taking your someone under the wing? I know Mike right now was mentoring a young man. What was the gentleman's name? Ryan?
Ryan, yes.
And he was mentoring with Mike. I mean, called Mike out of the blue and say, "Hey, I heard a lot about you. I'd like to travel along and see what's going on. This is a field I'd like to get into." Mike tried to talk him out of it several times, and several times, "Don't get in this field. It's a lot of hair pulling and thumb biting and stuff." But the kid stuck with it. He's going to school.
He's done with school now.
He's done with school, and now he's out on his own, sorta.
He's back in Kentucky right now, working with along with some other farriers, and I encouraged him to go out and work with as many different people as he could find right now.
Now, Dave, have you mentored anyone like that and set them off in the world, or have you tried to steer them away from getting into this field? Unless you were like you at 9 years old, going in on 13, your heart was totally into it. Have you mentored anyone and had a fail success rate or anything like that?
Absolutely. I mean, mentoring is very important to me, and I do have a list of mentees that I've had through the years and continue to do so. I have slowed down. Up until a couple years ago, I would mentor a different person every week in Florida.
Wow.
And I've retained those relationships with them, and actually some of them have become quite successful, and I actually travel with them, some of them once a year, some of them twice a year, and help them not only with the shoeing part, but the business part that they do. And actually, sometimes I've made associations with some farriers that their owners have actually called me and asked me if I would come and help them with their business. So, yeah, mentoring has been very, very important to me. This season, I'll only have a few farriers come with me. And, of course, because of my affiliation with Ohio State, this year being able to have the podiatrist ride with me, I will have 3 different veterinarians ride with me that have dedicated or going to dedicate their life to podiatry.
Now, we broadcast just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, in a little town called Marshville. We got a population of about 2,500 people. Dave, you showed us a picture earlier on your tablet there. All the landscape around you is lush and green. Where are you at right now?
I'm in West Palm Beach. We arrived next week. I actually live in Loxahatchee, just west of West Palm Beach.
I know exactly where it's at.
And I'm right beside Wellington, which is the Winter Equestrian Festival, where we have about 20,000 horses here in this area. So there's approximately, not all together, but there's approximately about 400 to 500 farriers visit here in the winter. With 20,000 horses, you can imagine how many farriers it takes to maintain those horses. So I'm very blessed to be able to do this. I've been doing this for well over 35 years, coming to Florida. I've made my practice so that I follow the clients that I want in the summer, but I have actually partnered with a lot of other farriers to take care of them in the summer. So my summers are lighter and I'm the busiest in the winter.
See,
However,
oh, go ahead.
having said that, I'm practicing retirement for a few years now. So I'm down to a minimum amount of hours. We work about 3 days a week, focusing on the regular clients we have. And then I will spend a couple days a week helping other farriers who do not want to come to Florida. So I help them, I service their clients, and I ensure that the clients stick with them. What happens in Wellington is a lot of farriers come here and they shoe their horses the way that they are best to perform at home. And they get to Florida, and because of the climate and the footing, things change, and sometimes the farrier at home gets thrown under the bus, and the owner wants to change farriers. So that's where I step in. I don't mind doing the horses for certain people and friends, and I want to maintain them as the farrier during the summer season. So that's my story.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick little break, and we're going to come back, and I'm glad he mentioned owners. We're going to discuss exactly the owners and what they do, their relationship with farriers. So stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stein. He'll be right back. All right, I got to switch this, so bear with me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I got to ask you, is your background in radio?
Yeah, well, communication, production, liberal arts, that whole thing. Anything to get me through school.
No, you're very well spoken. I love your voice, and wow, I just think it's great, Mike. You're very fortunate to have this guy.
See, Mike, yeah. I told you.
You
I
did.
told you.
I never had listened before.
Yeah, it's a great show, Mike. You should listen to us sometime. Yeah. All right, maybe we can get a little bit better quality on this one.
Yeah.
All right, you ready? Mike, you ready?
I'm good.
Dave, you ready?
Yes, sir.
All right. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stein. Don't forget, if you have a question for Mike Stein, the way you get a hold of him is go to equinedynamics.com. At the top of the page says contact us. Make sure you fill out that little form if you have a question for Mike or just a comment about the show or anything like that. Fill that out. Make sure you put a return address in there. A mailing address, not an email address. I had someone send an email address. I'm like, oh no, where do you live? So, because we send out a whole bunch of prize packs for anyone that participates in the show, and we appreciate them as well. And over on my far end side, who I appreciate very well, is Mike Stein. How are you?
I'm doing good, Travis. How are you? And we got Dave Farley with us.
And joining us here in the studio, we have a farrier extraordinaire, Dave Farley. How are you, Dave?
I am wonderful. Thank you very much.
I apologize for the beginning of the show. Our video up here in North Carolina, we were sitting on about 26 degrees, so I think the internet connection got froze up as well.
Skylink didn't make it.
Yeah, Skylink didn't work well. I got to talk to Elon Musk to make sure that I can get that Starlink out here as well. So, Dave, you mentioned right before break about the owners changing farriers when they come from the northern farriers that don't want to come down to the Florida area, which you are at, which I am jealous because I was born and raised in Orlando, Florida. And so you help the farriers in that area kind of move into that position where they're doing the horse's feet. Now, if it wasn't for the owners, we wouldn't have farriers at all. Now, explain that concept to me, because I'm the simpleton. If it was up to me, I wouldn't know what to do with if I had a horse out there. So explain that concept as far as owners are the reason why farriers exist.
Well, without owners and the money that the owners and the amateurs have, the horses would not be domesticated. They'd be running wild, and they would wear their feet off as much as possible, depending on the geography and location where they are. So we have to be very thankful that horses have been domesticated in this country, and the owners and the amateurs that we have the money and the ability to afford to have their feet maintained, because it's of utmost importance to maintain the horse's feet once they're domesticated, because they're not running free to wear their feet off. So my thankfulness is to the owners that care for their horses. My business has even evolved through the years to get me back to just the owners that I like, that care enough about their horses to pay us very well to maintain their horses' feet, to perform at the top of their ability, and also to do what I think is necessary to make it possible for me to do a 100% perfect job on those horses. So the owners are responsible for our income, but they're also responsible for our health and welfare.
Think about the aspect of an owner. When you say an owner of a horse, before World War I, everything that we had were horses, right?
Right.
I mean, that's the way we got around. That's how we moved. That's how we, worked and mobility. And then the car was introduced. So horses, that whole industry, the blacksmith, the farriers, the saddlers, and all those, that whole industry was almost eliminated by the invention of the car. But there were still people out there that actually liked to ride horses. So as the horses went away, what did we do? We made like tracks for us to ride on. We made like events. We made all these different aspects for horses. Now, in the future, I know that, once self-driving cars come around, there are going to be people that like to drive cars, but we already do that now. We make tracks for race cars and stuff like that for people who like to drive.
Right.
So when you say the owners are the reason why farriers are around, it's because of this kind of evolution of that whole industry. Like I said, the blacksmith and the saddlers and stuff like that. And so, as far as the owners, I don't know if they understand that or understand that transition or the evolution of why they are an owner at the situation that they're in.
I agree 100%. They don't understand it because they didn't live that. And, if you don't live it and you don't experience it, it's not imprinted in our minds. And I only wish there would be a more emphasis put on the history and why we've went to as many horses as we do. There's more horses now than ever in the world because the population is so high. And where it used to be the highest population of horses were in the country and the farms, now it's totally reversed, and the highest population of horses are in the metro areas, in the cities. There's even horses in Harlem, New York. So there's more horses now than ever, so more need for farriers than ever, and more need for education, as well as education for owners. I think it's utmost important for owners to be educated how to help a farrier do a better shoeing job, because there are more horses now than there was before the war. You're 100% correct.
Now, when go ahead.
Yeah, things have changed, and they've changed for the better, not only for the owners, because it's easier to have a horse now, much easier. It's like having any animal. Anyone can buy a gerbil, anyone can buy even exotic animals, let alone a horse. So very easy to get it. The hard part is to learn how to care for it correctly.
Now, when you say owners, I always think like in the movies. There's always this lady up in the stands with the big hat on, and she's like, "That's my horse down there." "Oh, really? What kind of horse is it?" "It's white and it has 4 legs." I mean, when you say owners, that's what I picture in my mind. But in reality, you're talking about owners that actually are involved with the horses, with the trainers. If the horse or the owner is like owner/rider, that's a whole industry in itself as far as education. I know my wife is an owner/rider, and she would tell me all these different things about the horses. I'm like going, how do you know all this stuff? How do you educate your stuff? She didn't go to school for riding horses or anything like that, but she knows all this stuff because she's educating herself. She's not just jumping on the horse and riding. And I think far and few between, there's a lot of riders out there that don't sit there and take the time to learn or to listen when a trainer says, "Hey, this is what's going on," or when the farrier says, "Hey, this is what's going on." Like Mike says all the time. We had an episode a couple weeks back where my wife wanted to bring Diego's feet up, and Mike said, "Well, how far do you want to go with it?" And they had a discussion back and forth. Do you want me to ramp it up all the way? He'll be sore for a couple of weeks. Or do you want me to, tone it down a little bit? And then you can still ride and still get what you want out of that.
Yes, correct.
Mike?
And that starts from the ground up, doesn't it, Mike?
Yes, it does. We have on her horse, he's a little oddly built uphill to kind of extreme.
Are you making fun of my Diego?
No. No. Which in some aspects can really work. But on the other aspects, we are dealing with some pressure that might not be as much on that hind end as if the horse was not as uphill as it is.
I've been doing this show with Mike for almost 2 years now. When he says pressure, uphill, all these words, I mean, they are English words. I understand them, but I just can't understand the concept because I'm not around horses as much as, yourself, Dave, and Mike, of course, being up underneath them, but my wife as well.
Correct. Well, but you're dealing with an upper level there, and also a level of education that has helped your wife understand what he's explaining. So you can imagine how difficult it is to just talk to somebody who, let's say they're a new owner and they build a little 2-stall barn and they have horses and they don't even know the nutritional needs that the horse needs, let alone how to make it a safe environment for a farrier to live and to make a living without getting injured. So that when it comes to owners and the amateurs, there's so many different levels, but we have to remember, just like farriery, we have to start at the basic levels. And if you're not a good farrier at communicating with owners, you'll never succeed to the next level. You have to educate the owner, just like Mike is doing with your wife, to be able to say, this is what is needed, this is what we can accomplish, and this is what we can do the next time. It's all about communication.
And also, don't forget your vets and the people that come out that care for the horse on a medical level.
Yeah, well, we're all caretakers of the horse. I mean, that's what we do.
All right.
We're lucky to be on the take end. That's what I tell everybody. I've been fortunate to be on the take end of the horse.
Yeah.
That means we're profiting on the maintenance of that horse year round, no matter where we're at and no matter what level you're at.
Travis is on the hemorrhaging end of the horse.
I just write the checks. How much is that? And I keep ripping them out.
That's why it keeps going up on what it charges me.
I got a callus on my thumb from writing the checks out for these darn horses. But anyways, I know my wife loves it. She's having a great time. And like you, she started on a different path, almost the same path, but started in a different direction. She was 9 years old, sweeping the barns and stuff while her mom rode. And then when she was old enough and more secure with herself, at 13, she started riding. So she didn't go into the farrier business. No, she went the other direction. She went on top of the horse as where you were going underneath the horse.
Absolutely. That's great. But she's doing her passion, right?
Correct. Yes. Yes, she is doing her passion. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick little break and come back, and we're going to talk about the actual expense as far as why a traveling farrier costs more than a regular in-home farrier. And it's not the obvious that you think. So stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stein. He'll be right back.
Had very poor service. So when he gave me the Starlink and I took it up there, oh my gosh, it was just amazing. And then he cut it down to the bare basic one, whatever that was, 100, 120 a month. And it still worked. Absolutely. You're just limited on service, right? And what you can do. But
right.
I'm amazed with it. I don't have it because I don't need it, but I carried it for a year and a half, almost 2 years.
Have you seen the Starlight Trio or whatever they are that is circling the globe? I mean, if you go out on a Carolina night, you can see there's like these 8 lights that travel and like they sweep the earth.
Yeah, well, where I'm at in northern Ontario, it's unbelievable how many satellites we see at the same time.
Oh, I'm sure.
The trail that they are throwing is absolutely amazing. But the lines, we even have satellites, that go north to south, as well as when I'm up there, the only airplanes we see are the planes that are going to Russia from Chicago and New York. They pass over my place. So we see no east and west airplanes. That's how far north I am.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So the sky is absolutely amazing. With the northern lights, it cuts down some of the satellites, but it's just amazing.
All right, Mike, you ready?
Yep.
Dave, you ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stein. You can follow him over on Facebook. You got a brand new page up there. And Mike, you're constantly posting all these furthering education articles, and I love watching them. I love looking at them. I don't read them.
Looking at it, just look at them. If they got good pictures.
Yeah, follow him over on Facebook. Just follow Equine Dynamics Mike Stein over on Facebook. Make sure you like him over there. And don't forget, for every podcast we do, we have a matching video as well. You can see us here in the studio, me waving to Mike, Mike waving to me. And how are you, Mike?
I'm doing good. And
joining us here in the studio, we have Dave Farley, farrier. Sorry, I forgot my train of thought there. Farrier extraordinaire, joining us here in the studio as well. Hey, Dave, how are you?
I am wonderful. Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
Now, we were talking about that you're down in Florida right now, but where do you call home base?
Well, right now I am a permanent Florida resident. However, I have a small cabin in southern Kentucky where the last 2 summers I've spent most of the time. And then I have a fishing cabin in northern Ontario. But I am a Florida resident, and I travel north in the summer to obviously see family and take care of the clients that I continue to work for.
And so you've got these farriers that are coming from let's say North Carolina down to the Wilmington area during this time of year, and some of them don't come down there. So explain to me the actual real reason why it costs more to hire a farrier that travels than just a regular farrier in your own hometown.
Absolutely. Well, when you travel, if you're a business person and you have any business knowledge as a farrier, you realize that there is a cost that has to be attached to those bills, okay, which is that bare necessities would be expenses, correct?
Correct.
But the smart farriers realize, geez, if I come down there, and I'm coming from the Carolinas, that's a half a day travel to get there, and then a half a day travel to go home.
Right.
So I'm getting 1 full day of work to work 1 day. So if you add it up, you really need to be charging 3 times the amount that you get to shoe an individual horse, plus expenses. Well, even though it costs more to get a horse shot here because you have there's so many great farriers that come there, even though it's a higher cost, you may be paying double, but you're saving money from having to bring your farrier down. And also, there's a lot of farriers who don't want to come down. They enjoy the opposite of me. I enjoy coming here, being busy in the winter and lighter in the summer. They like to be very busy in the summer. They're family people, and they hunt or fish or whatever, so they like to spend more time with the family in the winter, and they enjoy their time off. They don't get caught in the glitz and glamour of just saying, oh, I go to Wellington to shoot horses. They're smart. They stay home. They save money by going home. And also, if they have somebody like myself that insist that they continue to be their farrier, I even have some owners that will say, can I have my farrier come and ride with you for a couple days during the winter to keep up with things? Absolutely. Then we've communicated. They're happy with the service they have at home, and they understand that it's really cheaper to pay a little bit more to have a horse shot here than to bring their own farrier down.
So here's the question that I have, Mike. Pay attention.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So here's the question. Being that, the checks come out of my pocket, why would I bring down a farrier when I have, let's say I bring Diego down to Florida, right? Me and Diego go down to Florida. My wife's riding around in circles and stuff. Why can't I find just a local farrier there to do my shoes rather than paying a traveling guy to come down? I don't know if I'm making myself clear on that, but why would I pay a traveling farrier when there are perfectly good local farriers that could do the same job and, half the price, not paying the triple amount of the service fee?
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. And there are more, in the last 2 years, there's more farriers that have decided to live here than ever before in history. I think there's an extra 22 or 23 that I know of that are now living here year round and do not want to travel north in the summer. They want to stay here. So they do charge a bit less, not a lot less. It's still expensive to get a horse shot here because you have to remember, in my original hometown of Coshocton, Ohio, you can get a very, very nice home to rent or to lease for $600 to $800 a month. And down here, it's going to cost you $3,500 to $4,500 a month for the same house. So even though they're local guys, they're not cheap. So I don't know if that explains it to you or not.
Well, your cost of living.
The cost of living is outrageous.
Mm-hmm.
My wife is house sitting for my daughter-in-law. I went to visit her last night. She said, stop and get me something to eat. So I stopped and got a salad and a sandwich and a small drink, $39.
Jeez.
At a drive-through fast food restaurant that has a sign that says hiring at $20 an hour.
Right. But that's down in Florida. They're crazy down in Florida anyways.
absolutely. Well, including myself, I'm crazy to be here.
Exactly. I really, you're going to have to sell me on this paying a farrier to come down, because I really do have a hard time, because the way I look at it, it's like I'm a tennis instructor, and I teach tennis here to all the local kids and stuff. They don't hire me down there in Florida because I teach tennis well, unless I've got some kind of name recognition or anything like that. They will hire a tennis instructor down there in Florida. I don't know. I really have a hard time, paying a traveling farrier when there are perfectly good farriers in my area. Now, I understand that the price in Florida, the cost of living in Florida, but they pay you in sunshine, and all that stuff down in Florida. But I really do have a hard time. It's a hard sell to make me pay for a farrier that's traveling. That's it. I mean, I know that this is your bread and butter and everything, but I really do have a hard time. Mike, fill me in.
Yeah, I've done a little traveling, but most of my clients that go south are short term and back. Some of them will stay for a while. They usually get somebody else to do the horse. And my situation for farriers in this part of the country is a little different, because I'm starting to get busy, and by the time Dave is busy down there, I'm going to be slammed up here, because the northern horse is coming down for winter training.
Well, here's another prime example. You're the mentor that you had, or the person you were mentoring, Ryan. Ryan spends a couple months in Virginia, because he does have a Kentucky, and a real full-time job up there, and then he takes off 3 weeks and comes down here and shoes horses.
He has spent time with me recently. He will be back right now with some things going on. He won't be back till after the first of the year.
But he's not charging a traveling farrier's fee, because he doesn't have horses in Kentucky that he can do. He does horses here in North Carolina.
Right now, he is working with a couple farriers up there.
Okay.
And, right out of school, he went up to, I believe, Michigan for a few weeks, and he spent a few weeks with me.
But he's not charging a traveling farrier's fee.
He's straight out of shoeing school, and he's in the learning process.
We're
all always in the learning process.
So what you're saying is he's trying to sell the traveling fee, but it's no one's sticking to him.
Not yet.
Okay, so there you go. That's I guess that's the avenue I was going to, because I know in the background that this is happening here on our end. So, Dave, how much do you charge for traveling?
Well, it varies. I mean, obviously, you have to get 100% of your expenses. That's a give me, okay? But if you just think about what I told you before, if I have to go, let's say I have to go to Minnesota to shoe 6 horses. So, that's a half a day to get there, a half a day to get back.
But you can Dave, you can do that. You've got a list here, a mile long, of all these accreditations and everything. You can. Me, if I'm a farrier starting out, I can't charge those fees. I can't charge traveling fee, because the way the horse owner is going to look at me and say, hey, look, you chose to do this. You wanted to come up here to shoe horses, that type deal.
That's true. But you're paying for that education. As a mentee, you get very little to no money to get the education. It's all about experience. Right. You don't get to even the trail riding horses that are local. You can shoe all those horses you want, but if you find one person that's an accountant, let's say, and he wants to go trail riding in Pennsylvania, he's going to be prepared. He's willing to pay you more to shoe his horse to ensure that horse is shod correctly when it gets to Pennsylvania, or he'll hire somebody there. There's different levels that people want of experience. And like Mike said, the person that is a mentee that's fresh out of school is going to get little to no money. It costs a lot to learn to be an educated farrier. It's sad how much we have to give up. But it takes 10 years or 10,000 horses to have enough experience to know what you're doing wrong. Think about that.
Yeah. Wow. That's kind of eye-opening.
The first time I ever went out, I spent a little time with Tony Gonzalez, and Dave knows who we're talking about. But the first time I ever went out with Tony, I think I had to pay Tony about $300. and I asked him, I said, well, do I have to pay you every time? And he said, no. He said, I got tired of people not being serious about it. You're serious enough about it. We can line it up. You can come anytime you want. But he said, I'm just tired of dealing with people that just want to come ride along and they're not serious about it.
Yeah.
He says, don't think I'm giving you your money back.
we had the same thing in the show world. The most famous show farrier in the world, Mr. Seamus Brady from New Jersey, who did a lot of the early Olympic horses. He had so many farriers wanting to come around him and to ride with him to learn. He was smart and he charged them. You want to come and ride with him, you're going to pay him $1,000 a month and you're going to pay your own experiences. But what you're going to learn in 1 week or 1 month is it's 10 years of experience at home, because you know what works for you in your area, but you really don't know what is necessary to shoe horses at whatever level that is you want to learn. So it is you're paying for that 10 years. Stop and think about it. If it's true that it takes 10,000 horses or 10 years to gain enough experience to know what you're doing is wrong, what does it take to be a surgeon? It takes about 10 years of college that costs you a fortune. What does it cost to go to college to learn how to be a surgeon, a doctor, a dentist, a professional that works on live horn and hoof? Farriers work on live horn and foot. So we invest 10 years, and we're fortunate that we can get paid to do that. We get paid for 10 years to practice on clients' horses before we have the knowledge to be able to step up and do things differently, to know what good tools, what good rigs, what vets to hang with. So we're pretty fortunate to be farriers to get any money at all, to make the money that we're, because there's a lot of farriers make a lot of money. I don't make as much as Mike, but I make pretty good money.
I don't know. I don't think I make as much as Dave does.
All right, guys, stick around. One more little segment, and we'll let you get back to enjoying your horses. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stein. He'll be right back. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stein. Don't forget, for every podcast we do, we have a matching video. You can follow us. Go to YouTube, search Equine Dynamics Mike Stein. And for every podcast we do, you can see us here in the studio waving at each other. Hi. And make sure you follow Mike Stein over on Facebook as well. Same thing, Equine Dynamics Mike Stein. And if you have a question for Mike Stein, or you like Mike Stein or the podcast to come out and perform at your location or event, go to equinedynamics.com. At the top of the page says clinics. Fill that out. We can do what we do right here in the studio at your event. We can hang out with you as well. Mike will bring a couple of his freeze-dried legs and demonstrate. And barbecue sauce as well. And over to my fire inside is Mike Stein. How are you?
I'm doing good, Travis.
All right. And joining us here in the studio, we have Dave Farley. How are you, Dave?
I am wonderful and warm.
And warm, yeah. Thanks for rubbing it in. I've got the heater on up here. Unfortunately, here in the studio, if I had the heater on, it's going to sound like a jet engine here, so I have to turn it off. So slowly the temperature's dropping here in the studio. I have an 800 square foot studio above our 3-car garage. It's all insulated and everything, but it's still, 26 degrees outside. So my toes are getting a little toasty up here, or a little frozen up here. So thanks for rubbing that in for us.
No problem.
All right, guys, what did we learn today? Dave Farley was talking about the dedication to education.
Yes, sir. Dedication to education. And here's why I believe education is so important. It's because I believe that isolation equals stagnation. Think about that. Mm-hmm. So the more time we spend alone, the more we stay the same or go backwards. So It's very important to seek out education. There's so many, for farriers, there's so many local associations. And I think it would be wonderful if owners would ask their farrier to be involved in a local association. Your growth will go Mach 10 speed when you're with other farriers that know equal or more than you. Sharing knowledge is very important. And it's so easy to join a local association or a national association.
Mike, you were going to say something?
Yeah, on the being stagnant, I don't think you're ever stagnant. You're either going forward or going backwards. I don't think that you're just stagnant. Stay right where you are. Yeah, you lose your edge. And Dave, you mentioned something about the owners and education owners, and why owners are the reason why farriers exist.
Absolutely. Well, we exist because of the money that they're willing to pay us to do what we do and what we love. Most of us love our jobs. However, I just want to touch briefly on the necessity of owners understanding that it's not a farrier's job to train horses to be shod. If I can just emphasize that a little bit, because I have a whole program, a whole slide presentation on farrier injuries and injuries that put farriers out of business because the owners expect the farriers to be the trainers. And if a farrier ends up in court sometime, the judge will read to them the description of a farrier. And if a farrier has gotten a horse out of a stall or caught it in a field, and that horse gets injured after that, the farrier is in care, custody, and control and can possibly be liable for the cost of that horse. So it's very simple, very easy. There's a lot of good things. I'm sure Mike and you have touched on this, how to teach your horse to be prepared for a farrier.
And Mike, you've walked out of a couple stalls and stuff because the horse was not being cordial as far as being cross-tied or anything.
Sometimes it becomes time to pack up and go home.
Yeah, because I don't want to get hurt. I don't want to get stepped on today. I remember you telling me stories.
There's been enough injuries over the years. Don't need to be any more.
And also, why does it cost more to hire a traveling farrier rather than your local guys? If you got that special horse like Diego, why does it cost more for hiring a traveling farrier rather than a local guy?
Well, you want that farrier to be have the best and the most knowledge of where that horse is going to. That horse's environment is going to change. The footing is going to change. You want a farrier that travels, that keeps up with where that horse is going and to know exactly what it needs in that area. Shod differently than they are at home. Sometimes the footing is different at home. Sometimes the travel is very, very limited. They don't understand that even athletes, when they go to different events, the runners change their shoes. Tennis players will change their shoes, difference between clay and asphalt. I'm sure you understand that. So it's all about where the horse is going and hiring the best possible person with the most amount of knowledge to take care of that horse when it's in that environment.
Now, Mike, I've asked you this before. You've gone down to Tryon and stuff and shoed horses down there. I said, well, what if the guy who shoed the horses to get them down there didn't do something right and you do something totally different? I mean, is there like not a bumping of heads or an ego or anything like that? I would be worried that would be the scenario if I was to do that and not have a horse cared for like that.
Well, I got to say that that does happen sometimes, but for the most part, when I was doing all the FEI stuff, it was all upper level horses, and you had the whole conglomerate of vets and everybody else involved, and really didn't have any huge problem with it. But sometimes we did have to make some adjustments on some horses because of whatever it might be at that moment.
Dave, have you ever come across that situation before where you've had a horse that comes in and now you're taking over where a farrier left off?
Well, absolutely, we do. But I work with that farrier. I contact that farrier.
Okay.
Most of the time, I'm seeing some of the best horseshoeing in the world. I mean, these farriers at home are amazing, whether they're here on this continent or other continents. Rarely anymore in the last few years do I ever have to change balance. It's always very subtle changes of either support, length, or limiting length that has to be changed. Very subtle. And it's very easy to explain that to the owners. Your farrier did a wonderful job. It's just we have to make a minute change right here, a minute change.
And I don't think people understand how much difference going into some of these different, especially with some of the synthetics, how much difference that makes when your horse goes on to it from where they're working at home.
Yeah, that's the biggest problem that we deal with. It was that way 10 years ago. It was introduced here first. Horses came very, very well shod with the right shoes to make purchase with the ground because they were in dirt or sand at home. They get here, it's in synthetic. Synthetic is a giant pencil eraser. So the more grab the horseshoe has, the more failing the horse's limb has. When it impacts this ground and it locks, there's no slip or slide here. So it's usually very, very minor changes that we have to make in the synthetics.
Dave, where can our listeners, if they want to get a hold of you, where can they find you if they have any questions or anything for you?
Oh, I'm on Facebook. Or you can call Mike if you have anything negative to say.
That's right.
And that's Dave Farley. And you're out of the South Florida region right now, or the West Palm area, I should say.
Yes, sir. Loxahatchee, Florida.
There you go. All right, we appreciate Dave for joining us here on the program this week. Make sure, guys, you follow us on YouTube. Make sure you follow us on Facebook. That's Equine Dynamics Mike Stein. If you have any questions for Mike Stein or any comments about today's show, go over to equinedynamics.com. Fill out the little thing that says contact us. Make sure you put a return mailing address, and we'll send you out a prize pack as well. On behalf of Mike Stein over there.
Thank you, Dave. Have a good day with your horses.
And thank you very much, Dave, for joining us. Dave.
Also.
Oh, I'm sorry. What do you got in your hand there?
I've got a gift certificate you can give your wife.
Oh, okay.
So that she can spend some more of your money on horse stuff. I did a talk at Dover Saddle last night. I got some gift cards.
$10. I can't even walk in the door for $10.
You can.
I can. I'll get a keychain or something over there. And we'd like to thank Dave Farley as well for joining us here on This Week.
My pleasure, guys. Thank you.
My name is Travis, saying see you next week.
Hi, Lucky. Good night, Ned. Hi, Dusty. Good night, Ned. Good night, Ned.
And we're clear. Well, Dave, did you have fun? I hope you had fun.
Absolutely. I most certainly want to, extend my offer of that horse leg to Mike. I think it's very educational. I take it to do all that. When I do the how to find a good farrier and keep them for owners, it's only about a 35, 40-minute talk. But the wooden leg is the biggest hit in the world, and it educates the owner. So I think it would be, with what you guys are doing for owners, it's amazing. So I think it would help you, Mike. So when you come to visit, to hang out, you can take the leg and the horseshoes back with you.
Have some Mai Tais up there on the beach?
Yeah, that'd be good.
All right, buddy. Thank you.
Dave, take care. Enjoy that nice weather down there. I'm very jealous.
I can't wait for you to visit and hang out for a day, and I think you'll get enough content for about 10 of these podcasts.
Yeah.
A day? I'm staying with you all week. All right, Dave, we appreciate you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, I've got a